very good evening to you friends, and now in this video we are going to talk about C function. Like now you know that when the execution of the program begins, it always begins with one single function called main, and that is called the signature of the main function, which says that int main. So the int is the return type of the function, and that's why at the end of the main function we always write int return 0. And now if I have to design, because the function is just a very powerful approach of breaking down the huge complex of big program into the small modular, and this is called the modularity. So the breaking the complexity into the small pieces, large number of the small pieces of the functions, and these functions behave like the independent entities which can receive the data, can do the independent task, and can return you the result of their calculations, which can be used by other functions for their calculations. So this is how programming is divided. C++, or no, not C++, but the C is mainly, initially C was designed to work as a procedure oriented programming model called POP, so which just talks about it has a large number of functions and the data roam around these functions, and that was how the complexity was solved. Now in these conditions, with this example, I'm just trying to achieve something with the help of functions. This program has nothing, just two integer values. One I'm calling it as cost price, other I'm calling it as a selling price. And since you all know that the cost price and selling price can only be used to find the profit and loss, what else you can do with that? So this function has two variables, and one contains the cost price of an article, another contains selling price of an article. What happens after that? I want to design a new functions where I'll pass these values from the main function to that particular function, and that particular function will calculate, and then it will return me the values, and that I will be printing from inside the main function. So here I write the signature of the function. So it's called int profit or loss, or any name. This is called identifier. Keywords means the words whose meaning is well understood by the compiler and it's already given to the your programming language syntax, like the int, include, int, float, printf. All these are called the keywords. But what naming concept we are using to identify the function or the variable, they are called as identifiers. So the name of the function is profit underscore loss is the identifier. SP, CP, these are identifiers. And this function profit or loss takes two integer values, and it says that if SP is greater than CP, it gives me SP minus CP, means that is my profit. And if it is not true, so it will return me the CP minus SP, that is called as loss. So the program is just trying to explain you that the user is receiving two integer values from the main and passing it to the profit and loss function using a technique called call by value. So I'm just passing the copies of the values from X and Y, and then user will work on these two values, and it will return the result of their intermediate calculations that will be stored. So here z equal to, because this function is returning one integer value, so it has to be stored in another integer value. So now I just change the name because it's looking so difficult to type, so I make it try to pro loss, or even I can say prolo. So that's short, right? It just help me to save some time in writing. So z equal to prolo, and it is returning, so whatever value is returning, and that will be stored into z. So I'll print the content of the z. So printf, and double quote, the result equals percentage d. This is a format specifier because I'm going to print integer from z memory z. So that's why just write comma z, and then now run it. So this is called calling a function call by value. So you're just passing the values through the function, and even the prolo function tries to make some changes with the CP and SP. It can't do anything because the function have only the copy of the value, not the original value. So its content will not be changed. So now the cost price 1200, selling price 1300, so it's just 150. Correct it is. Now you all know it. Now let's do otherwise. So they're entering cost price, which is 1200, selling price is 750, so it's 450, and this is how it works. Thank you very much. Just watch my next videos called call by reference. Yes, friends. So very good evening, friends. And in this video, we are going to talk about the call by reference. In the previous video, you saw that the call by value. This is where you pass just a copy of the value, and the value goes into the function, and the job is done. So now you see the last example you saw. I passed the value of cost price and selling price, and the function returned me the values of profit or loss. Suppose if the passed values that comes from x, y and stored into the CP and SP, if that value is manipulated anyhow, so what will happen? Will the original value which has been declared in the main function, will that also be changed? The answer is simply no, because in call by value that does not happen. So, but if you want that to happen, so you have to call you pass the value using call by reference, where the memory address of the value is passed. So here in this condition I'm just trying to explain that suppose the prolo function doubles the SP and triples the CP, but stores the doubled and tripled value in itself. And in the main functions I say that when the function call has been done and then the value is returned, what is the content of my memory cell x and y which has been passed to that function. So here I just try to see that even after passing the value of x and y to the prolo function, and the prolo function has tried to change the value by doubling the x and tripling the y, so is the value automatically changed or it doesn't have any effect? So here this line I'm just trying to print the value of memory cell x and y. So there the same memory cells have been called as CP and SP. Now they are called as x and y. So I write CP is okay. So x and y. Oh, no, no, no. Error. It should be x and y. Okay, so now I run the code and see. So after the result, the value will be the value of x, or original value of x and y, means after pass. So suppose here I'm passing the 1200 for x and 300 for y. So now see, after calling again it remains 1200 and 300. But what will happen if I pass the values using call by reference? In the call by reference, you just have to pass the memory address of the value. That is powerful tool, but at the same time it is risky because you are allowing the prolo function to access that memory cell, which can be dangerous because there are two kind of functions called as pure functions or impure function. Pure functions do not manipulate the value given to them, but the impure functions do. So in that condition, so when you pass the call by reference, then this become the pointer variables. Pointer variables are the variables which point to the memory address. They are referred as asterisk CP. Means CP is a pointer value, points to the memory address of X. SP is a pointer value, points to the memory address of Y. And while passing, we have to write ampersand X. Ampersand means at the address of, and asterisk means the value at. So asterisk SP means the value at SP becomes 2 times the value at SP, means the value is getting doubled, or the original value is getting doubled, and the cost price is trebled. So this calculations I'm just trying to because you cannot use these are just values. In the next video I'll explain you the pointer, but right now this is just to keep in your head that we are just trying to understand that how it can change. So I'm passing the value 1200 and 700. So now see, the 1200 becomes 3600 and the 700 becomes 1400 because the value has been changed by the prolo function, because we passed the address of, now see how it is passed. So ampersand x and ampersand y. So now see it again nicely in just a clear screen format. I have introduced clear SCR and these values of x and y after function call. So this will help you to understand. So these are called the call by reference. So now let me run it again, and now you see this is the idea. In the next video we'll discuss more about the pointers. Pointers are the very powerful tool of the C and C++, and they are awesome. So this is 1000 and this is 600, so it becomes 3000 and 1200. Thank you very much. Just subscribe to our channel and be wise and learn person.